I woke up in a hospital bed I didn't recognize, staring at fluorescent lights that hurt my eyes. A nurse I'd never seen before smiled down at me. "Dr. Patterson, you're awake. How are you feeling?" "Where am I?" My voice came out rough, unused. "Mercy General, you've been here for 2 days. You had quite a fall." I tried to sit up. My head spun, but my mind was clear. I'm a doctor, retired, but I know my own body. I hadn't fallen. I'd never fallen in my life. "My name is Richard Patterson. I'm 67 years old, and I spent 40 years as a cardiologist before retiring 3 years ago. I know what a fall feels like, what confusion feels like, what medication side effects feel like. This wasn't any of those things. I need to speak to whoever's in charge of my care," I said. The nurse's smile tightened. "Your sons are handling everything with Dr. Morrison. They've been so worried about you." My sons, Michael, 42, and David, 39. I'd raised them alone after their mother, Elizabeth, died of breast cancer when they were teenagers. Michael was 16, David 13. I tried to be both parents, working long hospital hours while making sure they never felt the absence too deeply. I'd been at every game, every recital, every parent-teacher conference. When Michael struggled with calculus, I tutored him nightly for a month. When David got rejected from his first-choice college, I helped him write the appeal that got him in. I'd paid for everything, Yale for both, weddings, down payments on their Boston homes. When Michael's hedge fund needed capital, I invested $250,000. When David made partner and needed buy-in money, I loaned him $150,000. I'd never asked for anything back. They were my sons. Michael had married Amanda, had Sarah. David married Jennifer, had Jake and Emma. I saw them 3 or 4 times a year. I'd been proud, told everyone about Michael's hedge fund, David's partnership. Never imagined they'd drug their own father and try to steal everything I'd built. "I want to talk to my sons, now." "They're meeting with the hospital administrator. They should be back soon." She adjusted my IV. "Just rest, Dr. Patterson. Everything's being taken care of." That's what worried me. Everything being taken care of. I reached for the call button, but my hand felt heavy, sluggish. I looked at the IV bag. Normal saline, it said, but something felt wrong. My medical training kicked in, the fog in my head, the unusual fatigue, the gaps in my memory. Someone had given me benzodiazepines, recently, probably still in my system. The door opened. Michael and David walked in, both wearing expressions of practiced concern. Behind them came a man in a white coat I'd never seen before. All 3 of them had the look of people who'd been coordinating, rehearsing their lines. "Dad, you're awake. How give us such a scare?" I studied him. His tie was expensive, too expensive for his usual style. His watch, a Rolex I didn't recognize. New purchases, probably, while I'd been unconscious. "What happened?" I asked. "The last thing I remember is being at home, working in my garden. That was yesterday morning." "That was 3 days ago, Dad," David said gently. He was using his courtroom voice, the one that convinced juries he was trustworthy. "We've been trying to get you to see someone for months." I almost laughed. Episodes, dizzy spells. I hiked Mount Washington 6 weeks ago, passed my annual physical with flying colors. My last cardiology appointment, I still saw my old partner for checkups, had shown perfect heart function, excellent blood pressure, cholesterol within normal range. I haven't had any episodes. I kept my voice level, professional. "I'm fine. I want to go home." The doctor stepped forward. Mid-50s, expensive haircut, manicured nails. Everything about him screamed concierge medicine, the kind of doctor who'd say whatever you paid him to say. "Dr. Patterson, I'm Dr. Morrison. I've been reviewing your case with your sons. The tests show some concerning cognitive decline. Combined with the fall and the confusion, we think it's best if you stay for observation." "What tests?" I challenged. "I've been unconscious. You can't run cognitive tests on an unconscious patient." He shifted his weight. "Preliminary assessments based on your presentation when you arrived." "My presentation? I was drugged. Someone put benzodiazepines in my system. I can feel them." I looked at my sons. "I'm a cardiologist. I know what medications feel like, and I didn't fall. I don't fall. I run marathons." Half marathons, Dad, Michael corrected gently. And that was 2 years ago. You haven't been training lately. I ran one last month, Providence Half Marathon, finished in 2 hours and 8 minutes. I watched his face carefully. He didn't know about that, because he hadn't been paying attention to my life, just to my bank accounts. Dad, please. Michael reached for my hand. I pulled it away. We're just trying to help. You're getting older. Things change. Memory issues, balance problems, they're normal at your age. I'm 67, not 97, and there's nothing wrong with my memory or my balance. I turned to Dr. Morrison. What's your specialty? Internal medicine. Board certified? He hesitated. Yes. When did you last practice hospital medicine? Another pause. I run a private practice now. Ah, concierge medicine. Cash only, no insurance. The kind of doctor who rich people pay to write prescriptions for whatever they want. I kept my tone clinical, detached. And how much did my sons pay you to diagnose me with cognitive decline without actually examining me? Dr. Morrison's face went red. Dr. Patterson, I understand you're upset, but I'm a cardiologist with 40 years of experience. I know exactly what's happening here, and it's not cognitive decline. Now leave before I call security. They left, but not before I saw Michael and David exchange a look, frustration mixed with fear. They hadn't expected resistance. I waited 60 seconds after the door closed and pulled out my IV with steady hands. The nurse would be back soon with more medication. I needed to leave before the next dose. My clothes were in the closet. I dressed quickly, hands shaking slightly. Not from fear, from rage. I'd raised them, sacrificed for them, given them everything, and they drugged me. I walked out like I belonged there, old doctor habits. No one stopped me. A nod to the nurse at the station, past the medication cart, down the elevator. I intercepted a taxi outside and gave my address. 3 days missing from my memory. A doctor claiming cognitive decline. My sons pushing for guardianship. The rage built hot and sharp in my chest. Betrayal by the people I'd loved most. The house was exactly as I'd left it. Garden tools still out, coffee cup on the counter, but the coffee maker was unplugged. I always left it plugged in. The mug was rinsed clean. I hadn't rinsed it. The trash was empty. I never emptied it daily. Someone had been here, cleaning up evidence. They'd been thorough but made small mistakes, the kind only someone who lived here would notice. I called James Bradley. Richard Patterson, emergency. I need you now. Richard? I heard you were hospitalized. My sons are trying to have me declared incompetent. I think they drugged me. Get here now. He arrived within the hour. I told him everything. The missing days, the hospital, Dr. Morrison's rushed evaluation, Michael and David's financial troubles I'd noticed. Richard, this sounds like guardianship fraud, James said, pulling out his laptop. Let me check court records. He typed for a few minutes, then went very still. Richard, there's a petition filed 3 days ago. Guardianship petition for Richard Thomas Patterson, claiming incapacity due to dementia and cognitive decline. Filed by Michael Patterson and David Patterson. Hearing scheduled for next week. My hands clenched. They're trying to have me declared incompetent. And if they succeed, they become your legal guardians. They control everything. Your money, your property, your medical care. They could put you in a facility and you'd have no legal recourse. Why would they do this? I've given them everything. Paid for their educations, their weddings, down payments on their houses. I have a will leaving everything to them when I die. Why not just wait? James was quiet for a moment. How much are you worth, Richard? The house is paid off, worth about $800,000. I have retirement accounts, investments, about $2.3 million total. Why? Because if they're in financial trouble, that's a long time to wait. Guardianship gives them access now. He opened another window on his laptop. Richard, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Have you noticed any changes in your son's behavior, any urgency around money? I thought back. Michael mentioned his fund had a rough quarter, nothing specific, just casual conversation, and David said something about a big case that fell through, cost his firm a major client, but nothing that seemed desperate. James typed more. I'm looking at public records. Michael's hedge fund, there's a lawsuit, securities fraud investigation. If he's found liable, he could face criminal charges and millions in damages. My chest tightened. How much? Preliminary estimates suggest $4 million in investor losses. If he can't cover it, James didn't finish the sentence. He'd need money, fast. I stood up, paced to the window. What about David? More typing. David's firm recently settled a malpractice case, 7-figure settlement. The firm is listed as defendant, but individual partners can be held liable if the firm can't pay. He looked up. Richard, they're both in serious financial trouble, and you have $3 million in accessible assets. So they decided to have me declared incompetent, take control of my money, and solve their problems. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. Their own father. We need to act fast. The hearing is in 6 days. We need to prove you're mentally competent, gather evidence of their fraud, and file a counter-petition. James pulled out his phone. I'm calling Patricia Wells. She's a forensic psychologist who specializes in guardianship cases. She can evaluate you, provide expert testimony. And then we fight. But Richard, you need to understand, they've had a doctor sign off on your incompetence. We need to prove that doctor was either mistaken or corrupt. We need to find out what happened during those 3 days you can't remember. And we need to do it all before that hearing. Dr. Patricia Wells arrived that evening with a leather bag full of assessment materials. She spent 3 hours with me, running cognitive tests, memory assessments, psychological evaluations. Word recall tests where I had to remember lists after delays, clock drawing tests, trail-making tests, problem-solving scenarios. She asked about my career, my family, recent events, tested my judgment, my reasoning, my ability to understand complex situations. Tell me about yesterday, she said. I don't remember yesterday. I remember 3 days ago. Working in my garden, drinking coffee, planning to plant bulbs. Then nothing until the hospital. And that doesn't concern you, the memory gap? It concerns me deeply, but I know the difference between organic memory loss and drug-induced amnesia. What I experienced was chemical, not neurological. She made notes. Describe the taste of your coffee that morning. Bitter. I thought the milk had gone bad. I almost poured it out, but I was distracted. I drank it anyway. And then? Then nothing. A complete blank until I woke up in that hospital bed with a nurse I'd never met telling me I'd fallen. At the end, she closed her notebook and looked at me directly. Dr. Patterson, you're in the 95th percentile for cognitive function in your age group. Your memory is intact, your reasoning is sound, your judgment is excellent. There is absolutely no evidence of dementia, cognitive decline, or any impairment that would justify guardianship. What you have is benzodiazepines in your system, likely administered without your knowledge to create symptoms of confusion. Can you prove that? I can testify to your current mental state. The benzodiazepines are trickier. They metabolize quickly. By the hearing, they'll be out of your system. We'd need blood work from the hospital. James made a call. 20 minutes later, he had a friend pulling my hospital records. I tried to remember. The garden, morning coffee, then nothing. A blank space where 3 days should be. The coffee, I said suddenly. I remember thinking it tasted odd, bitter. I thought maybe the milk had gone bad. Someone drugged you, Patricia said quietly. Probably at home. Benzos in your coffee would explain the memory loss, the confusion. Once you were incapacitated, they could stage a fall, call 911, start the whole guardianship process. But who? My sons weren't at my house that morning. James pulled up his laptop again. Do either of them have keys to your house? Yes, emergency keys, in case something happened to me. So one of them could have come by early, drugged your coffee, waited for the drugs to take effect, then called 911, and by the time you woke up in the hospital, you had no memory of it, and they had a doctor ready to declare you incompetent. I sat down heavily. They planned this. This wasn't impulsive. They planned it. The next 3 days were a blur of preparation. Patricia compiled her evaluation. James subpoenaed hospital records, which showed benzodiazepines administered per family request for agitation, except I hadn't been agitated. I'd been unconscious. He also found that Dr. Morrison signed the incompetence evaluation after a 15-minute observation, no proper testing, no medical history review. It's a rubber stamp. Your sons paid him to sign. I can't prove it yet, but I will. We filed a counterpetition, challenging the guardianship and requesting an independent medical evaluation. James also filed a motion to freeze my assets, preventing Michael and David from accessing anything before the hearing. Michael called me that evening. I almost didn't answer, but I wanted to hear what he'd say, what excuse he could possibly offer. "Dad, what are you doing? James Bradley filed all this paperwork, requested emergency hearings. We're just trying to help you." "Help me? You drugged me, Michael. You put benzodiazepines in my coffee, waited for me to lose consciousness, then called 911 and claimed I'd fallen. You had a doctor who barely examined me declare me incompetent. You filed for guardianship while I was still sedated. That's not help. That's fraud. That's elder abuse. That's attempted theft." Silence on the other end. I could hear his breathing, fast and shallow, panic breathing. "Dad, you're not thinking clearly." "I'm thinking perfectly clearly. I've been evaluated by a forensic psychologist, 3 hours of comprehensive testing. I'm in the 95th percentile for cognitive function in your age group. Your memory is intact, your reasoning is sound, your judgment is excellent. There is absolutely no evidence of dementia, cognitive decline, or any impairment that would justify guardianship. What you have is benzodiazepines in your system, likely administered without your knowledge to create symptoms of confusion." "Dad, I didn't know what else to do. The fund is hemorrhaging money. Investors are suing. I could go to prison. I thought if I could just access your accounts, get through this crisis, I'd pay it all back. You'd never even know."
"I'd never know because you were going to keep me medicated in a facility while you stole everything I worked for 40 years to build. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were going to take care of you. Make sure you had the best care in a facility I didn't choose, medicated into compliance while you and David spent my money solving your problems." My voice broke. I hadn't meant to let him hear that. "You're my son, Michael. You're my son. How could you do this to me?" "I'm sorry." His voice was barely a whisper, thick with tears. "I'm so sorry, Dad. But it's too late to stop now. The hearing is in 3 days. We have Dr. Morrison's evaluation. We have documented evidence of your confusion at the hospital. Our lawyer says we have a strong case. You have fraud. Documented, provable fraud. And I'm going to make sure everyone knows it. Dad, please. If this comes out, I lose everything. My career, my marriage, my freedom. David, too. The kids will grow up visiting their father in prison. You should have thought about that before you drugged me, before you tried to have me declared incompetent, before you decided your father was worth more to you incapacitated than alive and free. I never wanted... This was never about... Save it for the judge, Michael. You're going to need better lies than that." I hung up, sat there with the phone in my hand, shaking. Not from fear, from grief. From the death of the relationship I'd thought I had with my son. The hearing was in Providence Family Court. Michael and David sat with their lawyer, Gordon Walsh. Michael's face was neutral. David couldn't sit still. I sat with James and Patricia Wells, the forensic psychologist. Judge Morrison reviewed the petitions, then looked up. "This is unusual. Dr. Patterson, explain what happened." I stood. "Your Honor, 3 days ago, I was gardening. The next memory I have is waking in a hospital with a nurse saying I'd fallen. I have no memory of those days. I'm a cardiologist with 40 years experience. What I experienced wasn't cognitive decline. It was benzodiazepine sedation. Someone drugged me. I looked at my sons. My sons used that to try to steal control of my life. Judge Morrison turned to their lawyer. Mr. Walsh, call Dr. Morrison. The doctor testified about his 15-minute evaluation. James destroyed him in cross-examination. Dr. Morrison, did you review Dr. Patterson's actual medical records? No, but the family. Did you conduct any cognitive testing? Given the time constraints, so no. You observed a sedated patient for 15 minutes and declared him incompetent. Dr. Morrison, how much did the Pattersons pay you? The doctor went pale. $5,000 for 15 minutes. Judge Morrison's voice was hard. That's $20,000 an hour. The judge turned to Michael and David. Gentlemen, I'm denying this guardianship petition. Furthermore, I'm referring this matter to the district attorney for investigation of fraud and elder abuse. Dr. Patterson clearly has full mental capacity, and there is significant evidence suggesting you deliberately incapacitated him to file this petition.
Their lawyer stood. Your Honor, my clients were acting in good faith. Good faith? Judge Morrison cut him off. They drugged their father, paid a doctor to rubber stamp an incompetence evaluation, and tried to seize control of his assets while he was literally unconscious. That's not good faith. That's criminal conspiracy. The courtroom was silent. Michael and David wouldn't look at me. Dr. Patterson, the judge continued, I'm granting a restraining order. Your sons are prohibited from contacting you, entering your property, or accessing any of your financial accounts. I'm also recommending you work with the DA's office on criminal charges. I nodded, unable to speak. The DA, a woman named Sarah Chen, contacted me that afternoon. Dr. Patterson, I'm opening a criminal investigation. Based on the evidence, I believe we can charge both your sons with conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted financial exploitation of an at-risk adult, and possibly false imprisonment. Will they go to jail? That depends on what else we find. Do you want to pursue this? Did I? They were my sons. But they drugged me, tried to have me declared incompetent, plotted to steal everything I'd built. For money? Yes, I said. I want them prosecuted. The investigation took 2 months. Sarah found more than I'd expected. Bank records showing Michael had been stealing from his hedge fund clients for over a year. Email records showing David had been discussing my assets and timeline for months before the guardianship attempt. Text messages between them planning the whole thing, discussing dosages of drugs, timing of the fall. Both were charged. Both took plea deals to avoid trial. Michael got 2 years in minimum security prison and 5 years probation. David got 18 months and 3 years probation. Both lost their professional licenses. Both were ordered to pay restitution for the legal fees and medical costs. And both were written out of my will. That was the hardest part, signing the new will in James's office. Everything to charity, medical research, scholarships, nothing to Michael or David. What about the grandchildren? James asked gently. I thought about Sarah, Jake, Emma. Education trusts they can access at 25, but their fathers can't touch it. And James, you're my medical power of attorney if I ever do become incompetent. Never them. 2 years later, I'm 69. I see my grandchildren when their mothers bring them. Amanda divorced Michael after his prison sentence. Jennifer stayed with David, but her eyes are always sad. Sarah asks sometimes, why can't Daddy come visit? Because your daddy made bad choices, and choices have consequences. Can you forgive him? How do you explain to a child that some betrayals are too deep? Maybe someday. Michael sent a letter from prison. I kept it unread for 3 days. Dad, I'm sorry. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. I think about teaching me to ride a bike, helping with homework, investing in my fund, and I threw it away for money I didn't even desperately need. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I understand. Your son, Michael. I read it 3 times, put it in a drawer, didn't throw it away, didn't respond. David tried to visit after his release. Thinner, wearing jeans instead of suits, he'd lost his law license. "Dad," he said when I opened the door. His voice broke. "What do you want, David?" "To apologize. To see you. You saw me in court while being sentenced for trying to destroy me. I hate myself every day. Jennifer barely speaks to me. The kids ask why we don't see you. I lost everything. But you, I lost you, and I don't know how to live with that." I felt tired. "You didn't lose me, David. You threw me away. You decided I was worth more to you incapacitated than as your father. Can we talk?" "No." "Dad, I'm your son. My sons died the day they drugged my coffee. You're not them." I closed the door, listened to him cry on the other side, waited until his footsteps faded. James asked later if I'd ever reconcile. "Michael's out of prison. David's rebuilt some kind of life. Will you forgive them?" They didn't just steal money. They tried to steal my identity, my autonomy, my life. They were willing to lock me in a facility, medicate me into compliance, rob me of everything that made me who I am, for money they didn't desperately need. I don't know if I can forgive that. What about for your grandchildren? They have their grandfather. I see them regularly. What they don't have is all of us in the same room, and that's not my fault. That's Michael and David's choice. Let them live with it. Even if it means dying alone? I looked at him. I'm not alone. I have you, my colleagues, my volunteer work, my grandchildren, and I have my dignity. When someone tried to take everything, I fought back and won. That's not nothing, James. I'm 67 years old. I still volunteer at the free clinic. I still run 3 miles most mornings. I still publish occasional articles, and I still live in the house where I raised 2 sons who grew up to see me as nothing more than an obstacle between them and $3 million. People ask me if I regret having children. I don't. I loved being a father. I loved raising Michael and David, watching them grow, being proud of them. I just wish I'd seen what they were capable of before they tried to destroy me. I've learned that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty, that desperation can turn anyone into a predator, that the people you trust most can hurt you worst, and that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away from family who sees you as an asset rather than a person. My lawyer suggested I write this down, share my story. He said, other elderly people need to know the warning signs, need to know this can happen to anyone. So here it is. If your adult children suddenly become very interested in your finances, in your medical care, in getting you to sign documents or update your will, be careful. If they suggest you're more confused than you feel, that you need help you don't think you need, get a second opinion from someone they didn't choose. If you wake up with missing time, if you feel drugged when you shouldn't, if people are making medical decisions without your input, fight back. Get your own lawyer. Get your own doctor. Don't trust that family always has your best interests at heart. Because mine didn't, and I'm one of the lucky ones. I figured it out in time. I had resources to fight back. I had a good lawyer and a sharp mind that recognized the warning signs. Not everyone does. And that's what keeps me up at night, thinking about all the elderly people who didn't catch it in time, who are sitting in nursing homes right now, medicated and helpless, while their children spend their money and wait for them to die. I can't save them all, but I can tell my story. And maybe, just maybe, it will help someone else recognize the danger before it's too late. My name is Richard Patterson. I'm 67 years old. I'm a retired cardiologist, a father, a grandfather, and a survivor. My own sons tried to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my life savings. But I fought back, and I won. Not everyone will.